Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the Full Tilt podcast. Today is a really special one for me. We're talking to someone who just makes me smile every time I see him. He's so full of energy, and I can see there you're even got a World Cup shirt on, so you're right in festive mode with everything going on in the US over the next couple of weeks. So, hey, welcome to the festival of football, as they say in the UK. And welcome Chuck Ebert, who's a Grammy Award winning artist and the CEO of Axon Entertainment based in Fort Worth in the US. Super excited to have you join us today. So welcome.
Good to be here. What is up, Bill? Jamming down. Yes, the World Cup is coming to Fort Worth and in Texas here. So in the big state of Texas, things are so big in Texas, of course, USA. So got to sport the World Cup shirt and the jersey today. So yeah, awesome.
Why not? Looking very, very fast there as well, I might say. But we're going to get straight into learning a little bit about you and, well, a lot about you that I didn't know. I've only known you for a few months, but every time I meet you and get to spend time with you, I find out just what an extraordinary life you've lived. So let's start right at the beginning when you were around 12 and your mum, I think, bought you your first acoustic guitar and you were listening to, I think, Eric Clapton, is that right, on the radio when you got your vibe to get right into music. So most kids sort of like that. In that sort of moment, you don't sort of get hooked on the guitar when you hear that sort of music, but you went the other way and went straight into it.
Oh, yeah.
What was it that turned that moment into your sort of lifelong obsession with music?
So mom was a songwriter and guitar. I didn't even know till just recently. She's passed recently, and
Right.
I was going through some stuff and found some songs and stuff she had done, and an old yearbook that one of those where you go back to everybody does a get together after a reunion, after 10
Yeah.
years, and they had a book they'd printed, and it had some lyrics and stuff in there, and it said written by Faye Ebert, and she was a songwriter. I had no idea. But when I was young, she had this acoustic guitar, was playing, heard the guitar, and I just started picking up, started playing it. And no lessons, not taught, just self-taught with everything. And it just my ear could hear. And then in reference to that, Eric Clapton, the song was Layla, and they would play it at
One of
midnight.
my all-time favorites too.
Yeah. Little AM radio, and I'd wait because and stay up even though I'm exhausted. I'd stay up, I'm a kid doing everything, and I'd wait and I'd hear it, and I'd fall asleep to Layla because the DJ would play it at night around 11 or so at night because it's a long song, and I guess
Mm.
he was taking his bathroom break or setting something else up.
Right.
So I loved it. That got me really inspired, and of course now I've got multiple guitars in here and showing the guitar world. There's some of all of Chuck's guitars you get to see, from Les Pauls to Strats to all the rock and roll guitars of Charvel and Jackson and Kramer's, and then of course on the acoustic side over there, all the acoustic guitars, and we're sitting in our world class recording studio right now talking to you.
Wow, well, that's definitely confirming the passion's turned into an obsession. So
Yeah,
from that really early age, like you were raised on military bases, so you were, as they say in the US, a military brat.
definitely a
Your
brat.
your dad was a jet engine mechanic, I think was it Barksdale Air
Barksdale
Force
Air Force
Base?
Base, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mom.
And that's a long, long way, like the story of how you found the guitar from a recording studio. So how did that sort of background and that sort of upbringing shape who you have become? And what did your parents make of you deciding to go from a military background into a
Yeah.
rock and roll kid?
Rock star. Well, I had great parents. I try not to get choked up. My
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that your mum's passed. I didn't
Yeah,
know that. So
yeah,
I'm sorry.
mom had dad a couple years to get back, and mom just recently. So they were very, very supportive. Being a jet engine mechanic, which is loud noise and all the other stuff my dad did, and dealing with military airplanes and so on. Imagine a man would come home and allow his son and his other son, my brother, who was a few years younger than me. He had the drums, I had the guitar, and we had little Marshalls, and we're in a 1,200 square foot. And he allowed us to play music, and let us jam and play, which was just awesome of them to allow us to do that. And he let us do our passion. We were good kids. I didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't do drugs, nothing like that, brother. Not. We were into music. So he allowed us to follow that passion and drive and desire for at a young age. And I just had the knack. So I just picked it up and did it, kind of like my brother did with the drum. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Wow, that's actually extraordinary that you had parents that had such different backgrounds to you, but had the wisdom to let you go and let you sort of follow that sort of internal meter, I guess, of what you know was really resonating with you. That's so rare because most parents usually try and, well, maybe not most, but, you know, very many try and persuade their kids to follow what they know is more familiar to the family. So that's a really
It
cool
was,
thing
you
that you like. No wonder you really celebrate your parents. That's a
know,
great thing for them to do.
they had a lot of passion. They gave us, the passion that I have in music. They had for us, and they allowed us to follow that, whether it was going to be make money or not make money, because the music industry doesn't make a whole lot and all that. And the time being a rock star, yes, I did it. I got lucky to do a lot of things, but if it wasn't for my parents, I would not have what you see here today or be where I am today. That's all there is to it.
Well, that's it. Well, that's an awesome legacy. So, big high five to both of them. But when you were a kid, so you picked up your mum's guitar after hearing Layla, and then you mowed lawns for a whole summer to get your own
Yeah,
guitar, which is also extraordinary. I think you paid back in those days what, $140 or something.
$144.44 at Barksdale Air Force Base. They had that Les Paul copy out there. I mowed every yard I could to go get that guitar, and got to pay for that with my own money. Had started my own lawn service, not just me lawning, but I had others working with me. So
Look,
I was an entrepreneur at a very young age, doing the lawns and doing stuff, and that brought me into entrepreneurship. I guess I've been doing that ever since. And you are an entrepreneur if you own a recording studio and you're a recording person and engineer and whatever else you end up doing on your own, because no one makes it for you. You got to make it yourself. Same thing with music. You make it yourself. That's,
for sure. Well, what would you call that thing that you must have had at that age, at 12, to sort of get on with stuff and just figure out how the dots are connected? So most people will call that, I don't know, grit or, I don't know, determination. What would you call it?
intuition.
That's a good word, actually.
Yeah, kind of
Underneath the passion.
passion and intuition. And I didn't know the word no. So I'm going to go do until it's done and find a way. I always find a way. If I'm going to find a way to get this done. I'm going to find it, do it today. Still do. Got to find a way to do it. And in order for me to get that guitar, that meant I needed money. In order to get money, I had to mow yards. So
Right.
find something. And my dad was cool. He said, yeah, okay, use the mower. And he would tear it down and put it back together and said, here you go, take it, go mow. They empowered me by helping me. And we were a poor family. And I did not know how poor we were. But we were, you don't make much money in the Air Force at that time, and still probably don't much. I don't know how much you make today. Just wasn't much there. And I was so blessed that they allowed me to do work and use their tools to earn money to do
Yeah,
something.
well, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, it really is, because you're right. It's not sort of, it's just, I'm just kind of gobsmacked because I know in that environment, my brother was a pilot and he was in the Air Force and in the beginning of his career. And I just know it's so far away from the music industry that my brain's sort of blowing up now going, how is that even possible to continue? Because you didn't stop, right? So that passion took you to work with people like, I mean, I've seen the list of them and some of them are some of my favorite artists like Don Henley, the Dixie Chicks, Kris Kristofferson. You've worked on, productions for HBO, ESPN, the Travel Channel. You've even done stuff for the Academy Awards. So that's
Yeah.
an extraordinary range of
Yeah.
not only talent, but that's a huge range of different types of production. How does a kid from Louisiana end up in rooms like that? Like, what did it actually take you to get there? Again, it's just gobsmacking to me how you've managed to do it.
Well, I followed my passion to be an engineer at a recording studio in multiple places. I got asked to be the chief engineer at a big studio in Dallas, Texas. Some world famous people have come through there, and that's where I ended up getting to work. The studio's not there anymore. It was called Summit Sound Studios. And that's where I ended up working with some of those people. And I also was part of a nightclub kind of thing, where music club, where people came in and played event place today, where they come in and do. And I had BB King. I worked with Kris
Wow.
Kristofferson. We worked with the Dixie Chicks when they were just starting out. We worked with the Chicks before they were even the Chicks. I mean, the Dixie Chicks just becoming who they were, watching them start
Right.
out before Natalie even joined the band, and all the.
Wow.
So yeah, it's got to work with these people in multiple places, and Belinda Ronstadt had even played on the piano out where we were in this. I
Stop
met
it.
so many
That's
people.
insane.
Don Henley, we cut all kinds of stuff and even cut commercials out there for him. Levi's, from all kinds of stuff we've done. So yeah, it's being in the right place, following what God had me to do. I've always listened to my gut, my instincts, and I will always do that. And if it says do it, do it. If it don't, and listen to your gut. I mean, I do that all the time. So, and
Wow,
it's
that's
right.
Great advice. It's such great advice, because I know that it always comes back to haunt you if you don't, doesn't it? If you know in your gut that you should do something else and you overrule it, you always come back and go, "Damn, I wish I
Yeah,
had."
why did I do that?
I
Exactly.
know. I know. So, hey, this is an extraordinary stat for all those listening out there. This man, Chuck, is an 8-time Grammy nominee and actually has won a Grammy. For people outside the music industry, what is that? I mean, I'm fascinated with this. I'm really looking forward to the answer. Like, what does that process look like? So being able to be nominated is one thing. Winning it is a whole other thing. So we
Totally.
know that years of work, and you've got to submit the work, right? So what did it take? And then what does it actually feel like when your name gets called out?
Well, it's the highest honor you can get in music, period. I mean, it doesn't get any
No.
bigger than this. I mean, it's the Grammys, for God's sakes. It's awesome.
Eddie.
It's a lot of work, and everything is, if you're passionate about what you're doing, it's a lot of work behind the scenes. You're nominated by your peers. The public cannot nominate anybody, and you have to be nominated by your peers. The songs are what they're after. It's the best of the best. So we beat some majors that year in the competition for the Grammys on the award. The Gaithers, we beat Charlie Daniels out. There's so many on that ballot that year, and just for us to win that nomination was huge, and then to win the Grammy. So being a nominee is the step that when you're actually on the ballot, it's the top 5 basically that make the nominee. Submissions are made for the Academy, a lot of it. And I've been on the ballot for nomination for consideration is what it is before nomination, 50 plus times or something like that. I'd imagine by now even more with all the projects. But you finally get through the nomination round, through the consideration round, then you become a nominee, and I've done that 8 times. And I've actually hold a record, because one of the groups that we did one version of that 8 times in a row, and that's never been done by an independent and all that, an artist the way we did ever. And then we actually won the Grammy. So in my Grammy, I didn't get to walk on stage because I had to have an operation. It had iced over in Texas, and we'd done the record actually over there at the studio I was telling you about earlier.
Yep.
Sound studios and others, and iced over, and I couldn't get out. And before that, the doctor, because I had surgery, said, if you leave and get on an airplane, you have 7 minutes before you'll be paralyzed completely. Don't leave. So the year I won the Grammy, my mom actually called me and says, I think you won a Grammy. And I was teaching somebody on how to operate sound at a church and all that, because I couldn't go and I was going to have surgery, and the Grammys are on, and it's the only time I could teach him. And the next day I'm supposed to go in, then it ices over. And so I'm so glad I didn't go, but I wish I'd have walked on stage and got that. But that was how I won my Grammy. But my name came up, everything got to be seen. It was pretty amazing.
Wow. And did that change, like, what you were doing? Did that sort of change the trajectory of your career? So I can imagine winning it must just be a whole other level of,
Oh, yeah.
Wow. But what was the impact on your career after winning it?
Well, to win, it's the like I said, the highest honor you can get, and it's opened many, many doors to be a Grammy award winner. And also, I'm a producer, award-winning producer, #1 songwriter, engineer, all that good stuff, mastering engineer, all those things I get to do. It opens a lot of doors. I mean, there's not a lot of people that say they've got a Grammy, I mean, a real Grammy Award, and eight times of that to be nominated and considered. So it's opened many a door, and music industry is really an amazing industry. It's very difficult today. It's a totally different world, but yeah, it opens some great.
Wow. And so it really matters, because I guess there's some sort of conjecture that it's sort of an industry awarding their own. So what's really the impact? But it's fantastic if it actually does have an impact, like you're saying, particularly for new artists, huh? So that new artists that do get a breakthrough, it makes a huge difference.
It's hard. I mean, the music industry is one of the toughest industries in the United States of America. You're an entrepreneur, an artist, up against a mountain. You're up against a mountain.
Yeah.
And I'm an executive producer, a record producer, Grammy Award winning, engineer and producer and all that. And it's those awards, I don't take them lightly. They do help your career. But for the new artist to even be considered is beyond belief. And you normally consider a few times where you even make it to the Grammy round. So.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. And so on the back of that, you sort of went ahead, obviously, you've built the cabin recording studio yourself, and you've got, musicians describing it as, I think the quote that I've read that I love is 2,400 square feet of recording bliss, which is just fantastic. If you're an artist, you'd probably walk in there and go, oh my goodness, this is everything.
They
So
do.
what drove you to create your own space, and why does that matter so much that you've obviously put so much time and money into it? So what's the real thing that you've sort of driven yourself to create such an extraordinary environment?
I've worked in many a studio, and I still do. I work in studios all across the United States, the world actually. And there's amazing places to do work, but you're on a clock in most places. And
Right.
I built this studio for me. So when I want to work on projects or anything, I can work on my projects with whoever I'm working with. There's still a clock. We still on time for certain things. You got to be aware of those things. But if I want to spend an extra hour or two doing X, Y, and Z, it's my place. I can spend as many hours as I want. If I want to come down here and work and create songs, which I'm about to do for this project, and I probably do these things, I can do that. It's on my time. And I just knew I felt called. It's time to build a studio and build one. And so I did. I've built a few. I've helped a lot of people build studios, do a lot of things. I'm an acoustician. I've got the ears. I mean, there's no control room in the United States of America, no control room in the world that has a ceiling that's that tall, that is
Wow.
acoustically sound. No one, no one's. I was the first one to do it. I will brag on that because
You
that's
go
a,
right ahead. Your whole bio sort of blew me away when I had a look. So
that I
I'm
can
like,
brag
you
about.
brag as much as you feel comfortable doing. I'm fine with it.
Well, the acoustics in here are phenomenal. This console back behind me, by the way, in the studio, that right there. If
Mm.
I can see that board, let me get my chair out of the way. There we go. That board right there was used to mix episode 1, part of it, the Phantom Menace in Star Wars. It came from Skywalker Sound, and it lives in my studio. And me
Oh,
being a
get
Star Wars
down.
freak, that is an amazing piece of gear to have in this studio. So that rocks.
Wow, that's yeah. Well, I'll say when you sit at that, you definitely would be able to reflect on some legendary characters. That's awesome. So, as the CEO of Axon Entertainment, so that's your entertainment business now. You've got a full team of songwriters. You're recording stuff, you're publishing stuff for radio, video production.
Mhm.
You've got touring support for bands, you're doing artist management. Like, that's an enormous operation. How did you go from just doing the musician, sort of the creative piece, and doing basically, I guess, the real creative part to now running a full-scale entertainment company? Like, again, to me, there's so miles apart in terms of
Huge.
capacity and temperament.
Oh yeah.
What did that transition really demand of you? Like, what was the thing that you had to maybe not relearn, but you had to sort of reconsider that you needed to turn on more than when you were being a creative artist?
You have to get out of the engineering chair, and you can't just be an engineer. And I've always been a producer, and I was told a long time ago, you're not ever meant to be a producer in this town. I'll never forget the guy that told me that. He said, you're never going to be a producer in this town. I said, I already am a producer, and I will be a producer in this town. And that drove me even more to prove him wrong, and I did. I proved him
And
all wrong.
and and why would someone say that? Like, why do you think that was
Because
even brought
the
up?
way it works and they don't not if you don't understand the whole process of how music works, and this was a high known, very ranked engineer
Right,
in a guy in town, and he ran a major studio. And I actually took over that studio.
right.
Became chief engineer and executive producer and so on. It's the understanding of the knowledge of the music industry and the business. And back to your question, the reason that I did what I did and started doing all these other things is because I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Being an entrepreneur, I saw the need, where it needed to go, the aspects of things that we need to do with it, and I took that to the other level. And that's when I've done it's Axon Entertainment. It was a long time ago, Axon Entertainment and Artist Management. And when I started that company, so I've been in business for over 30 years now. And it's amazing to be in business that long for Axon Entertainment and all the facets we do. But we're an A to Z company. Now, the music industry's changed drastically over the years, and especially in the last 5 years. The most drastic change ever is from COVID to now. It's the most drastic change the music industry's ever seen in its life. So I am primarily, as we still do those things and work with various parts. For me, it's production end of things. I have other engineers that work and do things for me. I contract with a lot of folks so that they can tour, support, things like that. So yeah, we do a multiple range of things through Axon Entertainment, and they all have their own niches underneath the Axon Entertainment hub. So yeah, it's a lot.
And has the biggest change since COVID? You mentioned that there's been a big change. I would imagine, is that mostly technology, or is it the commercial models, or both?
It's both, very, very much both. The industry, real quickly, an example, a number one songwriter, as I am, I would have basically $100,000 check a year for writing a song that was number one, blah, 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 blah. That's a lot, that's $100,000, less, around 10,000 a month, so to speak. I made $100.38. It was $103.38, I think it was. That's what I made for a number one song last year.
Wow. So
There are
that's a number one song
there are a lot of zeros
produced and released last year, or one that you've
a
written and
year,
released years
2
earlier and just
years,
being played?
yeah, less than 2 years ago. So
Wow.
that's what's going on today, and people don't realize there are. I spoke on this a little while back. There are up to 3 million plus songs released every month. Up to 3 million songs. Of those, over half are AI generated.
That's
Over,
insane stats,
yeah,
Chuck.
people don't realize.
I didn't realize the technology was that invasive. I
Oh,
mean, I understood it's being used, and obviously there's a lot of conversation now about, copyright and who owns the creative, but I had no idea that was the volume. Like, how does the industry cope, and how does the artist cope with that sort of change in financial model?
I'm on the Grammy P&E wing, producer and engineering wing, and I'm also part of the advocacy of the Grammys, and I'm very involved in all that, and
Right.
as far as teaching and so on. And we're on Capitol Hill. We're talking about those things. We're actually trying to help the artist. When your music can be taken and somebody can emulate you
Yep.
or do you, and then take you exactly as you are in your music and throw it out there, and
Right.
then it's their creation, but it's not their creation. It's really your
Anymore. Yeah.
right, and you can do it with your phone, click of a button, anything. Then why do we need recording studios? Why do we need all that? Well, I have the answer to that. I have the answer to why you need recording studios and why you need producers and why you need that. Because AI can't do real. It's not real.
Well,
And
it's
people
not
still
human, is
record.
it?
Oh,
Technology's not
I'm
human.
booking more now. People are calling me more. I got more stuff coming in now wanting to do real things because
Right.
AI it's one way. And it's great. It's a great tool. It's great for demos and so on. But it's not the real deal. And there's a difference and you can hear it and say, oh, it's getting closer and closer. I go, it's emulating. It's not the same. So there's a part for AI in this. Absolutely, there is. There's also
Okay.
a part for the human nature. And when we learn to do both, which it takes time for those things to happen, it will come around and you'll see a change. But the other part of that is, how do the artists make any money or do anything like that? They don't.
Yes.
They don't. They don't make any money. The only way you make money today in the music industry, there's 4 ways artists get paid. I won't get into all that, but I'll tell you this. You have to sell merch and you have to sell tickets. If you sell
You've got
tickets to
to tour. You've got
it,
to tour.
make something. That's it.
Yeah, I
That's
heard
what,
an interesting interview the other day. I can't remember who it is. I actually think it was one of the founders of Google AI,
oh wow.
and he was talking about that his whole view, and it's sort of the whole direction that, for what We Group Global does, which is very much advocates of the human connection and how important that is, and
Mhm.
more and more and more as we now progress into what is clearly becoming a prolific part of a digital age. And his words were quite astounding. He said, "Look, people are going to probably go to a concert where the music being played is AI generated, but they're going to go to the concert because they want to connect with the people that go to concerts. So the human experience is going to be hugely valuable." And his view is that, say, a band playing is going to be able to charge more because they're real people and you're going to be able to see real people. But as to your point, we're so early in that paradigm shift that we can't sort of see the differences, and the nuances are so sort of vague, and sort of there's so much dialogue that's sort of confusing. But he seems to think, and I mean, he's got an extraordinary brain, and obviously he's been involved in the technology far more than the rest of us. But I found it extraordinary that his view is that the human component will become extraordinarily valuable, and that people will go, which I find, how ironic is that, right? They'll go to a concert, even though the music is AI generated, because they want to be around people and react with other people to the music at that environment. I just was like, ooh, wow. So yeah, so I think you're probably right in the right place at the right time in terms of having the capacity for humans to be involved in recording music and doing all that sort of stuff. Because I can see from even our own research that the human component of getting together, talking to another human face to face is just so important.
Well, AI is live now. AI is being played live, and those concerts are happening. But there's also people. What a lot of people do not understand is AI is an input of information that a person had to put in there for that to generate something. A keyboard is an AI instrument. It does not just spit out information unless you put something into it.
Right.
Keyboards are the baby version of what AI has been forever. Keys and synthesizers and so on. We all have all those things. Anything can be that way.
Right.
in instrumentation, because you have to put a human input for a guitar to make noise. You have to put human input for the
Yeah,
piano.
that's a great way of thinking about it, Chuck. I hadn't even thought of it that way, but you're right. Every instrument is of a similar, I guess,
Yeah,
construct, right? Just a
sure.
different output.
It's just how it comes out, and then it's when you let the computer think for you, when the computer thinks how to write your logarithms and all that, you give it parameters and it writes it for you.
Right.
For me, it's cheating in a lot of ways, but at the same time, it's actually a great tool. So I'm not way against it. I'm against it whenever it takes rights or finances away from those who are creators. That's the only thing. But there is a marriage there. There's a lot going on. There's a lot happening behind the scenes. It is a positive. It's not as bad as the negative, but of course, all that rises to the top. You have to weigh it all out, and there's pros and cons on both sides.
Yeah, that's a fascinating take on it, especially from someone with your level of experience. So back to sort of why we're here today. So in my why I've worked with my team to call this podcast series Full Tilt is because anyone that knows me knows that I'm sort of all in whatever I do, and I've been like that since I was a kid. My mum, even when I was a baby, was like, I was laughing. I was interviewing someone the other day, and we were using my sort of childhood as an example to explain. I have an elder brother, and he'd be able to be sat outside on a blanket, and in the sun and play with his toys. I'd be the same age, sat outside on a blanket and see there was a gate or a fence in front of it, and I'd be the first one climbing over the gate, So this is all about that. There's a certain level of innate obsession. I think when you get to know entrepreneurs, we all have that inner hunger. So there's also fear that's associated with the stuff that you do. It's inevitable when you're doing things, at a really intense level. And sometimes you're doing it the first time. There's people haven't done it before. So there's also sort of those things in our lives, I think, particularly with entrepreneurs, where we kind of have that ability to pivot really quickly from one thing to another. We have like a fascination to learn. Like, what was your sort of pivot moment in your career that might have forced you or enabled you, if you like, to think about things completely differently and then either better what you were doing in a completely different direction or change direction, which so many entrepreneurs do?
So I've been an entrepreneur for many, many, many years, and I've done so much behind own Chuck Ebert Creative Consulting, and that's part of an entrepreneurship and all the things that we do behind the scenes. People have no idea that they know me for music. They don't
Right.
realize that I do so much more behind the scenes. Music's about 20% of what I do in business, and
Mm.
really, and I'm like, no, 80% is entrepreneurship, and I've been doing that a long time. In the music realm of things, the things that changed, COVID naturally does a lot for a lot of folks, but I saw the change happening before that. COVID putting an icing on the cake for me for some things. We
Right.
were launching a major artist. He was out going out, number one songs for him, going, doing things. COVID happened. Everything stopped. Watched that go on, which was a reset for a lot of people. We've all heard COVID. We know what went on in that world. Not say everybody does, but it was a kind of a crazy time in the whole world. But that reset a lot of things for me. That was a time to say, okay, and look at some other options for X, Y's, and Z's and where I want to put the rest of my time and years. I pinnacled in the music industry. Yes, I could win more Grammys, and there's always other things to do, and you can always keep growing and doing stuff. But I've seen other opportunities that happened during that time, and I put a lot more things in place. I'm a venture capitalist. I have a lot of things. People have no idea all the behind the scenes of Chuck Ebert. Well, you'll find more about that out. I'm about to launch a major campaign of stuff that's coming out pretty soon, and a lot of other things that we've been working on. So no one has an idea. A lot of people don't realize that, but
I know, and I can vouch for that. I've
you
known you
can
what
vouch for that. You know,
many well, I know what I can vouch for is for anyone listening out there, you can already tell, I'm sure, from hearing Chuck talk about what he's done over his vast career, but this man never stops. So I've learned that he's gone from one industry to another. We're just about to have a chat about that now, which is very,
yep.
very appropriate. So you've even opened or started a brand called Buffalo Chip Spirits, which I think I found out about when we were recently in Puerto Rico for some business meetings that we had there. And I was like, what? You have a bourbon company? Like,
Yep.
what? How did that happen? And I'm just like, honestly, I am so inspired when I get spend time with you because it's not only your energy, but all those things where you're just like, oh, I could never open that. But what a great idea that, you just go and do it. So like,
Yep.
what is that? Like, that's a massive wild left turn from the music industry. So makes you or what enables you to just completely back yourself in a random industry?
Well,
And like what's your propensity or what's your capacity to, I guess, examine, or I don't know what the phrase would be, examine, review the risk involved? Because
oh yeah.
there's got to be risk that I mean, what, did you just come home one day or from a bar and go, I know, I'm going to start a bourbon company? Like, what?
Entrepreneurship is all about risk. Entrepreneurship is a risk. I'm a risk taker. Not to go drive off a cliff and hope my car doesn't crash or not have a parachute and jump out of a plane. That's stupidity. But risk taking is part of entrepreneurship because you're going against the world in a lot of ways. It's never been done, as we talked about earlier, as you mentioned. There's so many things that happen in entrepreneurship. Well, music, wine, bourbon, spirits, all that goes together. It has in the industry forever. It all goes hand in hand in a lot of ways. So
Right.
I was at an event, a music event for an artist, and he's playing and opening up a show and a big show at Municipal Auditorium in Shreveport, Louisiana, which is my hometown. And that night, I run into a fella at the hotel before the show. And I said, hello, going down the elevator, dropped the artist off, said, all right, enjoy your room. I'll see you in a little while. I'm going to go downstairs. On the way down in a casino in Shreveport, Horseshoe Casino, coming down the stairs in the elevator, coming down the elevator. And this big old boy comes up. I said, how you doing? I said, great. I don't know a stranger. So I'm saying hi. And I said, what are you in for? He said, well, I'm actually here to buy a car wash. Buying a car wash here in Louisiana? Yeah. Wait a minute, what car wash are you buying? He says, I'm getting this one down the street. And I said, the Stanfield's old car wash? He goes, yeah, how do you know them? I go, they live 6 doors down from me from when I was a kid. And I go, dig this. I go, before that were the Finks, who I knew them. That was my cousins and so on. And I go, you're telling me you're buying their car wash there on Shreveport Barksdale Highway? He went, yeah. And I went, my dad and my family helped build that car wash. You're buying our old car wash. So that was kind of amazing how that happened. Next thing you know, we're talking about come ventures, do this, do that. And he said, you're a record producer? I said, yeah, man. I said, I'm going to Nashville to do some work here in a little bit because I'm always up and back and forth about it. He goes, next time you're in Nashville, you're staying with me. I said, you live in Nashville? He goes, yeah, man, da-da-da. Became friends, talked about it, all things. Next thing I know, he says, you're coming to Sturgis. I want you to meet friends up here in Sturgis and da-da-da-da. So I followed those steps and said, okay. Gut says go and do. Next thing I know, he's saying, well, how do we do this for this fella? And it's too long of a story to tell you right now, Bella. It'd take up all the time in the world. But basically, he said, how do we create something for this man who has everything?
Right.
And so when somebody is a multi-millionaire that has everything and you're trying to do something for them and he hasn't done anything, I mean, they can't think of a way to do something. I said, well, has he ever branded his stuff? Because the guy owns the Buffalo Chip, company, the Buffalo Chip. This is where 100,000 people camp at a campground for the Sturgis bike rally, the motorcycle
Right,
rally.
right.
They
I
know about
remember.
and that's what
Yeah,
the Buffalo Chip name is. That's where it came from. He said,
right.
well, what do you do? I mean, how do we, his name is Woody. He goes, how do you help Woody? What do we do? I said, was anybody ever acknowledged that he's the father of the Sturgis Bike Rally? I said, no. I go, I know what we do. Put a bronze statue up there and do all that and make something like that and let people know that I go, forget that, man. Let's make a bourbon and let's call it Buffalo Chip American Whiskey. And then the Buffalo Chip Bourbon. We'll call it Woody's Bourbon. We'll make a Woody's Reserve Bourbon. I sat in my chair at the house, just sitting there one night, just taking that call, and all that hit me. And he said, oh my gosh, I got so-and-so. I said, we're going to do this. And in 2 weeks, we had the tastings ready of different things and flavored and done within 2 weeks. In a month, we were figuring out how to build the company. Within 6 months, we had some of the first initial things. And then I won, and a couple of years later, of course, gold medals, silver medals, New York, San Francisco World Spirits Competition. It's that good. That's what I did. And I followed through. I made it happen. And I threw stuff in the wind and said, gonna do this, and determination.
Right. Extraordinary. So obviously, there's some really hard calls involved, I would imagine, when you're doing so many sort of really different, there's similar skills in very different industries. So that's clearly, there's clearly stuff that you just don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Were there moments where you sort of can remember, like, what was like the hardest call you've ever made? Like, if you look at what you've done over your career span, including these, incredible left turns in your industry, and they've been successful. Like everybody, I know a little bit of the story around the bourbon company, but you exited that very well.
Thank you. Yeah.
And you did very well out of it. And most people just couldn't get their head around getting out of their own, industry. So that's I just find it extraordinary. But was there a time in your career where you sort of thought, wow, that's probably the hardest thing I've ever done?
Probably one of the hardest things I've ever done is to let go of all the things I've been doing in here musically.
Oh, okay.
I have to let some of this go so that I can do the rest of the entrepreneurships of the other things I've done. This takes up a lot of time. And henceforth, why it's now about 20% of my business. We used to be over half. And
Right.
with industry and things change, the hardest thing is letting go of something that you're so sure of, and you know it's a sure, and you're going to be able to do it routinely, and you get stuck in routines. Those can be hard things to do. I think for anybody, when you get stuck in that world doing those things. But personally, there's the goals of letting something go to realize you're going to do something bigger me,
Right.
is the gain for me. And I'm an entrepreneur. I've got that mind to do things. I mean, I'm starting a wine business right now.
Yep.
Something never been done before. Doing something totally different. Like wine business, that's down the road. But yes, that's going on. Starting something else that's huge, and it's not
Things
starting.
that we can't talk about yet, but
All
you'll
the
hear about it, guys.
Yeah. That yeah, but, those meetings and those people meet like you, Belle. The way I meet you, the way you think is through networking and so on. I just got nominated for Bellwether. I'm now in Bellwether. They just put me in the Bellwether group. So that was something, and another thing that I got to be a part of. I'm very blessed to be considered even to be in that honor for that group. Part of the Hero Club, part of C-Suite, part of all these different
Right.
things. But I did not stop. I don't let barriers get in my way. They're in the way. You're either going to cross them, find a way around them, but you got to get through it one way or the other.
Yeah, and that's such a great attitude. And I think was talking to someone about that this morning. Actually, I had a breakfast meeting and was talking about that today. And I think really part of being an entrepreneur is you end up because you just do have, I think, a different way of thinking. Like if I just look at my own background, I always felt a little bit like an outsider because
Mm,
I wasn't conventional, right? And so I think we end up attracting people that are very similar vein because we can kind of see ourselves in the other person and what they're doing, and I think that's definitely something unique. And it's interesting because I'm thinking for the industry, like you've been very successful, and you've also said that being a successful artist means that you've got to understand.
Measured right there. That's where success is measured.
Yeah.
Don't measure success by your wealth, by what you have, or by what people say. I teach this to people all the time, especially young and upcoming people. Success is measured in one place only, in your mind. It's measured by one person only, and that's you. So success is in your heart, your mind, however you want to look at it. My success is in my mind because I know I'm successful from in here. My gut says, and all that. And I don't care what everybody else says. And yes, I appreciate the accolades, but you have to measure success here because who else is going to measure it? I mean, what really is success? I mean, you better think about that. It's in your mind. It's in what you do. It's your spirit, your person. You're successful can be small goals. They don't have to be giant. They don't have to be a recording studio. Don't have to be a Grammy. Success is here.
Do you think these days in the industry, though, I mean, there's a lot of, and I've sort of seen this in different industries myself, but, do you think, though, even in the music industry, like having a great creative piece of music, is it like that's not enough to be successful? You've got to know, well, we just talked about connections with people. It costs money. You've got to be determined, resilient. You've got to understand how the business works. That's a
Right.
tough sort of thing for someone to hear. So you've said that being a successful artist, and I'm interested to hear your perspective on this because being creative, having a great piece of music, often some people rely on that creative output, but to be really successful, you've got to have business knowledge, you've got to have money, you've got to know the right people. There's a certain level of determination, which clearly we talked about with you, and I know to be true. So how do you deliver that message to someone who's starting out without absolutely crushing their creative dream?
So being an entrepreneur in music industry is in the first place, one of those hardest things you can possibly do. I tell everybody straight up what it is. I'm always honest about how the music industry works. It takes a lot of money. A great song doesn't mean a thing. It's 10% artist, 90% business. That's what it is. It's 10% artist, 90% business. The 10% of the artist is the best part of the entire, and that's why we do it. It's creating the music, writing the score. It's everything behind the creative aspect of everything. But the 90% is the hardest. And most artists do not understand the 90%, the business, the music business. There's a model, and it's, again, won't get into it right now. It's too much to tell everybody in the whole world. But if you want to find that out, Chuck Ebert Creative Consulting, or call me, set up an appointment, and I'll do consulting with you. And I'll tell you how the music industry works. But the music industry model is very expensive, and it's who you know. It's who you know. You have to know. Now, you can fund, you can do everything. And not to break an artist's spirit, what I tell them is straight up, I said, you got a song? I'll help you record it. You want to help you songwrite and get it to where it needs to be? I will happily do that creative process with you. But I want you to know, if you're trying to be an artist, a star, put your music out in the world, you can record it with your phone, stick it out, and the whole world can hear it. That's great. Nothing's going to happen with your music. Nothing. It's not just going to be discovered. It's one in a, it does happen one in millions and millions and millions. But if you make it in the industry, you have to have the working knowledge of how the industry works. That is what I give artists all the time when they work with me. First of all, is I give them some of that working knowledge so they realize how to do it. They don't have $1 million to go break themselves. It's almost $2 million to take an artist from a no name in 18 months to be a name of some sort that you know, and that's just starting out. Nobody has that. Nobody can do that. If you have the backing and you have the working knowledge of how to do anything, there's no way I was going to build this $1 million plus studio, a couple $1 million now worth of a studio here. It's not going to happen. I'm not just going to do that. Family, friends, all that helped me do this and max it out, doing everything and work so I could actually build this and it's become a reality.
Right.
Time, energy, effort, and knowledge, and who you know. It's who you know, Belle. It's always who you know. And pretty much anything. That's entrepreneurship. That's music industry. Doesn't matter what your career is. It's really who you know if you're going to move forward and do more in your life.
Yeah, and just really focusing, I think that's a really great point to make. And I'm kind of reinforcing it with younger people that I know, that learning the technology, understanding how it all works is useful, but you've got to understand how to develop and maintain human connection. Otherwise, you're going to make it so hard for yourself.
Business, you have to have business knowledge.
Yeah.
Business, you have to have that. So I teach, that's what I do. I teach them, I teach the artists, they need to know when they get that working knowledge, then they've got the power to do something with their music and make something out of it. So
in the stuff that you've done, like you've done so many things. We sort of addressed that a couple of times, quite a huge spectrum from not only the different types of music, from gospel to country, but then, bourbon and wine and whatever. Is there anything that you wouldn't do or wouldn't produce in music?
I don't do negative rap or anything that's really on the dark side of things. I'm a positive person, so I do positive music. Not to say it's a word in here every now and then. It's not the end of the world. But if it's really negative in rap and I don't need to say MF this and da-da-da-da and all that, why? Yeah. What's the purpose of that? That's stupidity to me. And rap's got some great points. There's some cool rap out there, some great stuff, but that's not my cup of tea and what I do. And yes, I've worked with Snoop over the years and blah, blah, blah. He's been part of that. There's all kinds of things we've done and I've done, and Vanilla Ice. Yeah. Did that too and all that, but doesn't matter who you've worked with. It's the positive, it's what the message was or what they're doing. So to me personally, I get to choose who and what I work with all the time. And I choose positive music or anything that's from the heart or written. I do Christian music too. I do gospel. That's all great too. But my heart's in rock and roll. It always has been. I was a rock star, and so do rock, and that's where I love doing that. But it's anything, it's all new age, country, everything. I do it all. I love doing everything.
I love that. I love that you're known amongst all your friends that I know as the rock star, which is just the best because it's exactly how your energy feels when you enter the room. It's so cool. So that's cool. So you're a voting member of the Recording Academy, CMA, ACM, Gospel Music Association. I'm just reading the list here, which is extraordinary, and the Audio Engineering Society. So you sit inside these systems like that, recognized in music as sort of, I guess, mentoring, but also supporting the all these different ranges of artists. So from inside the industry itself, do you think the industry is rewarding the right things? Like, is there stuff that they're consistently getting wrong? Like maybe the way that they're approaching technology or AI. So I'm really interested to get your view on that from sitting inside some of the most, renowned institutions for music.
So the world, AI, can be, like, as we said earlier, it can be a 4-letter word, even though it's 2 letters. It's made a huge impact in mostly. Where it impacts people is not the creative side as much as it is, and it is very much in the creative too, but it's more on the pocketbook side. That's where it hits people and financially hits people. I'll explain it this way. This is the pie. 20 years ago, this is the pie. When music began, this is the pie. This is the amount of music that is played basically in a day. Of that, the majors used to own 80 of that pie. And then the X amount of people were on that pie. A lot of slices were taken out. That's the financial part. Now that pie is the same size, but they're micro slices. And the majors only own about that much of it. So basically 20%, the way it's going today. There's so much out there, music done, that it's flooded market. There's no money in publishing. There's no money in music. An artist can't even find their way to the top unless you have ways and have the working knowledge of music. Then you can. The industry today, as far as it goes with the Audio Engineering Society, which is all about engineering the creative craft of actually doing it, the Grammy organization and all that they do are all on top of that. The people are trying, but in the model world, do they miss things? Yeah, people miss things. It's not a popularity contest. It has to do with the song. It doesn't have to do with if you're the most popular in the world. There are things that get missed all the time in all those organizations. But are they put their best foot forward? Yes. Is leadership that need to change at times? Yes, always. I mean, change is actually a good thing, even if it sucks. But I mean, it
Yeah.
really helps, to go through some change.
Yeah.
But the positive, for the most part, most of those folks are trying their best to make a positive impact or want to be a supporter or part of the industry if they want.
Yeah, it's a really interesting time, isn't it? I think for a lot of us that are sort of not only using technology in our businesses, but
Oh,
the
yeah.
creative side, well, I guess we're all sort of forced to engage with it. So within all of that, and I know we've sort of touched on this before, and I know we've spoken about this privately, but your guiding belief in what you do has never really changed. It's sort of the song, the initial concept of the song that inspires you. It's then the music that sort of when music's sort of something that you've created around the idea, and then that whole creative art of putting it all together. Such an extraordinary thing. I have a similar thought process, and I'm just in awe of the same thing, looking at directors putting films together. To me, when you understand they're not done sequentially, it's all pieces put together.
Same.
It's just an amazing thing. Yeah, exactly. The same in music. But after 30 years, so does that concept of, that creative process, does it still really hold, or has the music business, changed so much that those processes are now not really as I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of creativity still there, but is it still the same sort of process, or is it really changed?
Well, fundamentally, for a song, and same thing for a movie. Let's use both examples. A song has to start with one thing: lyrical content. Has to be some, or it has to start with one thing: a musical, some type of a composition. The same thing in a film. It's an idea. Same thing starts in a song. It's an idea. You start out with an idea. That still has to be fundamentally written down, typed out, however you want to say it. It has to be put into a format that you can listen to it or you can see it. A film director, I am a director as well in doing that. And being
Of
behind,
course you are. Of course you are.
I've done that as well. Yeah.
You've done all of it. I know. Every time I
Videos.
talk to you, I'm just so, oh my goodness, I feel so inadequate just talking to you. I'm like, what? I think, oh my goodness, you've done so much. It's extraordinary. Has it changed what all of these changes, has it changed what music means to you as well?
Well, I mean, music still inspires me. It depends on what's brought to me as to how the inspiration hits me. And somebody back to that about the writing of the song and all that's part of the same question too. But you're saying the inspiration. Somebody brings me a great piece of work, and they say, "I've got this great idea. I'm inspired." Then I will listen to it. I see where they're coming from, and then I'll sit and help them write that song, get that song where it needs to be. It's the same thing for a film. You write, you look at the script, you do everything to get it where it needs to be first. It doesn't just become a script right away that actors get to read off of. It has to be thought out, written, and done, and analyzed. And that's what we do with a song. The first step is to create a demo, write the song, get it into a format that says, okay, from this part here, we can do anything with it. We can make it rock, reggae, country, jazz, funk, fusion. It doesn't matter. We can do anything we want to do with it. Same thing in a film. What direction we're going to take it. Once you write it, you kind of it all lays out. Say, okay, we're going in this direction. It's going to be this way. How the producer sees it. Same thing we do in music. So the fun and the inspiration comes from the people. And when they bring it to me, if they're inspired to have something, and the creative side, it makes me creative. And I still do. I still write. I mean, I just finished a song, got released just recently, and I got more coming out that I'm constantly working on and doing because yes, music will inspire me till the day.
Awesome. Well, it's so inspiring to have taken some time to talk to you about your background and just, what you do and how you operate in the industry. I am. I'm so inspired every time I hang out with you. It's just you've got such a great gift, Chuck. So never lose that vibe that you've got. But hey, we're going to close out our interview today with a standard 5 questions. We ask every guest version of these 5 questions, and we call it the Full Tilt Rapid Fire. 5 questions at the end of every interview. So you ready?
Yeah, bring it.
Okay. So the one artist or anyone you've ever worked with or admired from a distance whose creative instinct still stops you in your tracks?
One artist. You're asking me one artist out of all those artists I've worked with.
Well, someone you've worked with. Maybe it doesn't have to
It's
be
gonna
a
be
recording
I worked with.
artist.
Really, there's so many great people. There's so much from A to Z. There's so many things that inspire me. It's in music and everything I've done.
Anyone in particular that stands out because of something that they do really well or that they've achieved at a level that you just look at and go, wow, they managed to pull it all off? Is there
There are
something?
gonna be some people that people would not even know. It's the behind the scenes musicians. Some of
Right.
those people and the stellar stuff they've done. They're not names you would know, but they play on so many albums and so many records, and they're phenomenal at their job. If it wasn't for that, you wouldn't hear half the stuff you hear today. Those guys inspire me. As an artist, one guy that really gets me, I thought about right now. His name's Jeff Claiborne. He is one. I've written great stuff with him. I don't know, that guy's he's a salt of the earth, wonderful person. He's been a blast to work with, and he's a country guy, and I really enjoyed working with him. And he's like a brother to me. So that I really, really loved and enjoyed. So there's so many. I mean that question is like the most loaded question you could ask a record
Sorry.
earth.
I
Seriously.
know. That's a bit of a hard one.
There is not one.
I put you on the spot.
Yeah, they've all inspired. I've been inspired by so many. That made me who I am. Was working with those guys. So.
That's awesome. So best piece of advice you've ever received and who gave it to you?
Best piece of advice ever received. Who would ever give me the best piece of advice? Well, basically, I think it's going to come from my dad. He always said, follow your gut, follow your heart.
There you go. I can see that in you. Well, you're living that whole vibe. There's no question. So with all the things that you do, what's the one thing that keeps you up at night as a founder of, like, obviously music, recording studio, a spirits company, a wine company, and obviously beyond? We won't go into the other big project that's a bit sort of top secret at the moment, but I've had the pleasure of learning a little bit more about it. But is there something that keeps you up at night at the moment?
Nothing keeps me up at night. I sleep pretty dang well.
Love that. I love that. Well, that's a great closeout for someone who follows their passion. That's the best. So what does living full tilt mean for you personally? Does it resonate with you?
I live full tilt every day. I mean, I juggle so many things, and that's part of an entrepreneurship and what you do. And I know if I could send something to somebody about being full tilt, it's the energy, that I just love that energy and drive. And that's also having the full tilt and shutting it off. You have to learn how to shut that off. You have to learn to go have that quiet and peaceful and resilient, the time of refreshing coming back, and then you can get right back into it. So yeah, man, I live that all the time.
I'm hearing you. That actually is my struggle as well, which is the turning off bit. I've been having to learn that. So Chuck, next chapter. Is there anything that you're building or you're working towards that the world doesn't know about yet?
Yes, there is. I will give you an exclusive and let you know. So if they watch this interview to the end, they can have an exclusive.
What do you mean if? Of course they've watched it till the end.
When they watch this thing is what we're saying. All right. You got to watch the end because this is it. So I have something I've been working on for years, and it's coming out pretty soon. It is all geared toward men. I'm going to give you some clues. It's all geared toward men. It's something that I have a passion about for men. It is not bourbon. It is not music, but it definitely is a lifestyle.
It goes along with music and bourbon, though. You got to have them. You got to have it to be able to enjoy the bourbon and hang out with the music.
That's right. Rhymes with jazz.
It does. And for those listening, it's a very cool concept. So just keep watching and maybe hang out on Chuck's website when you get a chance, because I know you've got references to it coming soon on that website, and we're certainly my whole team are excited to see what you do with it. So thank you so much for joining us today, Chuck. I just love you. You're one of the coolest people I've met in a long time. And it's so wonderful to see someone get so much joy out of just life and showing up and doing stuff that's not easy, and it takes a lot of effort. And, you've had an extraordinarily busy time over the last couple of months. You mentioned that before we went on air today, and yet you still show up in a way that's just so full on and full of energy. And to your point earlier, which is, I think, wonderful, framework, is that the one thing that you won't do is do things that are negative. And I can absolutely see the one thing you won't do is live your life in a negative vein. And that's just so inspiring. So thank you so much for bringing that on board today.
Go positive or go home.
I love that. Hey, I'm going to use that if that's okay. I'll write that down.
I do it all the time. Go positive. Right.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much. And you'll hear what Chaz is doing. I'm sure you won't just have to go to his website. I think it'll be a bit louder than that. But thank you again. And thanks, everyone, for the latest episode of the Full Tilt podcast. And tune in next week for our next guest. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Cheers. Rock on.